Hello everyone, and welcome to our discussion today. We're going to talk about a very interesting question. Should esports be considered real sports? This topic brings up a lot of debate, and we have two guests with different views. First, we have Sarah Miller, an esports analyst and former professional gamer. Sarah believes esports are indeed real sports. And with us is Ben Carter, a traditional sports journalist. Ben has a different opinion and will argue against esports being classified as sports. Our format today will be straightforward. We'll start with opening statements from Sarah and Ben. After that, we'll have a discussion where they can respond to each other's points, and I'll ask some questions. Finally, each guest will give a short closing statement to summarize their position. So let's begin.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here to talk about something I'm very passionate about. So what are esports? Simply put, esports are competitive video gaming at a professional level. Many people think video games are just for fun, but esports are much more than that. My first point is that esports require an incredibly high level of skill. We're not just talking about playing games casually. Professional esports players need extremely fast reaction times, often measured in milliseconds. This is faster than many traditional athletes. They also need amazing hand-eye coordination, making precise movements with a mouse and keyboard or a controller under immense pressure. Strategic thinking is also essential. Players and teams must plan complex strategies, adapt to their opponents, and make quick decisions that can change the game. Teamwork is another crucial skill in many esports, just like in basketball or football. Players must communicate effectively and work together perfectly. My second argument is about the serious training involved. Esports players dedicate a huge amount of time to practice. They often practice for 8 to 12 hours a day. This includes playing the game, but also studying opponents' strategies and analyzing their own gameplay. Many teams have coaches who help them improve, plan game strategies, and even manage their mental state during competitions. This level of dedication and structured training is very similar to what you see in traditional sports. Finally, let's talk about professionalism. Esports have grown into a global industry. There are organized leagues, large international tournaments with millions of viewers, both online and filling huge stadiums. These events offer significant prize money, sometimes millions of dollars. Players also get sponsorships, just like traditional athletes. The infrastructure around esports, with teams, managers, and media coverage, mirrors that of established sports. So when you look at the high skill, the intense training, and the professional, competitive environment, it's clear that esports share the key elements of traditional sports. Therefore, I believe esports deserve to be recognized as real sports.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Sarah, for your points. I understand the passion for esports. However, I believe we need to be clear about what defines a sport. For me, and for many people, a sport must involve a significant degree of physical activity and athleticism. This is a necessary component. My first argument is the fundamental lack of what most people understand as physicality in esports. Think about traditional sports: running, jumping, swimming, tackling. These activities involve the whole body and require considerable physical exertion. Players develop strength, stamina, and agility through years of physical training. Esports, while mentally demanding, primarily involve sitting in a chair and making movements with fingers and wrists. This is a very different kind of activity compared to the dynamic, full-body movement seen in sports like soccer or tennis. My second point concerns the definition of an athlete. When we hear the word athlete, we usually imagine someone with exceptional physical power, speed, or endurance. Esports players are certainly skilled, and I don't deny their quick reflexes or mental focus. But do they fit the common understanding of an athlete? I would argue that the physical demands, while present in a limited way, are not comparable to those placed on traditional athletes. My third argument is that popularity and competitiveness don't automatically make something a sport. Esports are incredibly popular, especially with younger audiences, and the competitions are intense, I acknowledge that. However, other activities like chess or competitive debating are also highly competitive and require great skill and mental effort, but we don't usually call them sports. Competitive eating also has tournaments and prize money, but it's not a sport. The organization and audience size are secondary to the nature of the activity itself. So, in conclusion, while I respect the skill and dedication in esports, and I recognize it as a significant competitive activity, I believe they lack the essential physical element that is fundamental to the definition of a sport. Calling them sports might change the meaning of the word in a way that isn't accurate or helpful.
Thank you both for those clear opening statements. Sarah, Ben emphasizes the lack of significant physical activity. Isn't that a fundamental part of what makes a sport?
That's a common point, Alex, and I understand why Ben brings it up. However, I believe it's about a different kind of physical activity, not a total lack of it. Esports players need incredible fine motor skills. The precision and speed of their hand movements are comparable to surgeons or musicians, but under intense competitive pressure. Think about the stamina required. Playing at a peak level for matches that can last many hours requires physical endurance, even if it's not about running marathons. The heart rates of esports players can reach levels similar to those of athletes in some traditional sports during crucial moments of a game. This shows physical exertion. Plus, the mental focus needed is exhausting. This mental exertion has a physical impact on the body. It's tiring in a very real way. And let's not forget sports like shooting or archery. These are Olympic sports, and while they don't involve running across a field, they require immense physical control, precision, and stability, skills that are also present in esports. So the physicality is there, it's just expressed differently. It's more about neurological efficiency and precise motor control than gross motor movements.
Then Sarah brings up the physical skills like reaction time and finger dexterity, and compares esports to Olympic sports like archery or shooting. How do you see esports as different from these examples?
It's a fair question, Alex. Sarah makes some good points about the skills involved in esports. However, I still believe there's a significant difference. When we talk about sports like archery or shooting, yes, they require fine motor skills and control. But they also involve a direct physical interaction with an object in the real world, an arrow, a gun. The athlete is physically manipulating something to achieve a result in a physical space. The physicality, while not explosive, is tied to a tangible, real-world action. In esports, the primary action is manipulating controls that then translate to actions in a virtual environment. The connection to direct, real-world physical exertion is less clear. Furthermore, traditional sports, even those like archery, typically promote overall physical well-being through the training involved. Archery, for instance, requires core strength and stability. I worry that the largely sedentary nature of esports, despite the mental and fine motor demands, doesn't offer the same broad health benefits. In fact, it can pose health risks if not managed carefully. So while the skills Sarah mentions are real and impressive, they don't, in my view, equate to the kind of holistic athleticism that defines sports and differentiates them from other skilled competitions.
Let's move to another aspect. Ben, esports now have huge international tournaments, dedicated teams with coaches, massive online and in-person audiences, and significant financial backing, just like football or basketball. Doesn't this professional structure and widespread recognition push it towards being considered a sport?
Alex, the growth and professionalization of esports are undeniable and, quite frankly, astonishing. The scale of these events and the passion of the fans are clear to see. However, I must argue that organization, popularity, and commercial success do not define what a sport is. They define what is successful entertainment or a successful competitive activity. Think about it. Major music concerts are highly organized, draw huge crowds, and involve immense talent and dedication. But we don't call musicians athletes or concerts a sport. Similarly, large-scale talent shows, or even something like the World Series of Poker, have professional structures, big prizes, and many viewers, but they aren't sports in the traditional sense. The definition of a sport, in my opinion, must primarily rest on the intrinsic nature of the activity itself, specifically the element of human physical exertion and athletic skill. We can call esports competitive gaming, electronic competition, or a new form of digital entertainment, all of which are accurate. But applying the label sport based on its commercial success or organization rather than its core activity feels like a misclassification. The business side is impressive, yes, but it doesn't change the fundamental activity from being one of primarily sedentary, screen-based interaction.
Sarah, Ben still questions the core activity. He acknowledges the organization but distinguishes it from the nature of sport. He also previously questioned if esports players train like traditional athletes. Can you describe in more detail the training regimen involved in professional esports? What does a typical training day or week look like for a top player or team?
Absolutely, Alex. The training is far more rigorous and structured than many people imagine. It's not just about playing the game for fun. A typical day for a professional esports player often involves 8 to 10 hours, sometimes more, of focused practice. This is broken down into different types of training. There's individual skill practice, where players work on their mechanics, their speed, accuracy, and specific techniques within the game. This is like a basketball player practicing free throws or dribbling. Then there's team practice, which is crucial for most esports. Teams spend hours scrimmaging against other professional teams, working on their strategies, communication, and coordination. A significant part of training is also VOD, Video On Demand Review. Players and coaches meticulously analyze recordings of past matches, both their own and their opponents, to identify weaknesses, study tactics, and prepare for upcoming games. Many top teams now live in team houses, similar to training camps, to foster teamwork and maintain a disciplined schedule. They have coaches, analysts, and sometimes even sports psychologists. And increasingly, physical fitness is becoming a part of their routine. Teams recognize that good physical health, including exercise and proper nutrition, helps with focus, stamina, and injury prevention, like carpal tunnel syndrome. So they might have physical trainers too. This dedication to improvement, the structured practice, the strategic analysis, and the focus on peak performance, it mirrors the commitment you see in any high-level traditional sport. It's a full-time job that demands immense discipline.
In closing, I want to thank Alex and Sarah for this engaging discussion. I've listened carefully to Sarah's points about skill and dedication in esports. However, my fundamental position remains. A sport, in its most meaningful sense, requires a significant component of physical athleticism that involves the whole body. While esports demand impressive mental acuity, quick reflexes, and fine motor skills, they are primarily sedentary activities. The physical exertion is not comparable to that found in traditional sports. I fully acknowledge esports as a legitimate and exciting form of competition, a booming entertainment industry, and a testament to human skill in the digital age. But to call them sports stretches the definition too far and risks diluting what makes traditional sports unique in their celebration of physical human potential. They are a distinct phenomenon, impressive in their own right, but they are not, by my definition, sports.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Alex. This has been a great conversation. I stand by my arguments that esports embody the core qualities of sport. They demand extraordinary skill, not just mental, but also physical skills like reaction time, precision, and the stamina to perform under pressure for extended periods. The dedicated, intensive training regimens of professional players, often guided by coaches and analysts, are on par with those of traditional athletes aiming for peak performance. Furthermore, the professional structure with organized leagues, global tournaments, and passionate fan bases demonstrates that esports are serious, high-stakes competitions. I believe the definition of sport should be inclusive and evolve with the times. It should recognize new forms of competition that test human limits, even if those limits are tested in different ways. Based on the skill, the dedication, the competition, and the sheer human endeavor involved, esports have earned their place and deserve full recognition as real sports.
Thank you very much, Sarah Miller and Ben Carter, for sharing your insightful perspectives on this fascinating topic. It's clear there's a fundamental difference in how each of you views the importance of traditional physicality versus the complex skills and structures present in esports. The debate over whether esports are real sports will certainly continue as esports themselves continue to grow and evolve. We hope this discussion has given our audience a lot to think about. Thank you all for watching. Good evening.